Greetings my guzzlers, we're going to do some baking. This is a special request from the wife. The wife saw this when I was browsing through some things and said I want one of them. So I'm making a rainbow cake. Now again, this is, I was browsing through CupCake Jemma's pages and that's what she saw. So this is courtesy CupCake Jemma again, alright? Use a lot of this, don't I? We want obviously some rainbow colours. Unfortunately, I've only really got 5 and we want 6, and I've already prepared to do 6. So my rainbow is going to be a bit weird. It's going to be purple, blue, green, yellow, a sort of pinky colour and red. Alright, they don't matter. Now, what we're going to do before we start actually making the cake, and now the problem with this cake involves a lot of washing up because we're making 6 cakes. Now if you've got 6 sandwich tins, 8-inch sandwich tins, then you're made up. If not, you're going to have to use whatever ones you've got and then wash up and then reuse them. Alright, I've got 3, so we're going to be doing this in the oven in 2 batches. You also want some bowls to make up each cake, because obviously we can make the main batter up in, you know, this sand mixer, and then we've got to divide it up into 6. So you're going to need bowls for that. Okay, so what we're going to start with is colour, or get the colours ready. So I've measured out 1.5 tablespoons of milk, whole milk, and to each of it I'm going to add one of my rainbow colours, and I'm using these pastes. And what we want into each one is basically a lump, as Gemma puts it, about the size of a baked bean. That's going to be quite difficult. Oops, now I've got it on the table, or on the worktop. We want quite intense colours, okay? They're not meant to be like subtle, okay? And so all I'm going to do is for each of them colours, I'm going to go through and we're going to mix it into that milk, and then we're just going to put that to one side, ready for when we're ready to make up our batter. So I'm just going to get all my milk coloured. Right, so that's my milk all nicely coloured up. So that's about 9 tablespoons of whole milk, okay, split up into 6. And then to make life easier, I've already weighed my empty mixer bowl. That was 840 grams, okay. And into that, I've put some unsalted, softened butter. I've got 750 grams, is that right? Yeah, 750 grams of that in there. And what we're going to do is I'm going to put the beater in there, and we're then going to add to that 750 grams of caster sugar, which I've suddenly realised in getting everything else weighed out, I haven't weighed out my caster sugar yet. So I'm just going to weigh out my caster sugar, and then we're going to put that in there, and then we're just going to put that on a fairly high speed for about 6 to 7 minutes until it's all nicely all creamed together. So that's had just over 5 minutes, and what I'm going to do now is I'm going to add 1.5 teaspoons of vanilla extract, and then I'm just going to let that whisk in for another few more minutes. Okay, now in the meantime, what I've already emptied out into a bowl are 9 whole large eggs, and I'm giving a little bit of a beating together, and then we will be gradually mixing that in. I've measured out 750 grams of self-raising flour that I've sifted. Okay, we want to get as much air into this as possible. And the only other thing is I've taken my sandwich tins, 8-inch ones, I've buttered them well, and then I've floured them so that hopefully our cakes don't stick. So I'm just going to get that bit whisked in for that last little bit. So now I'm going to add some of that egg, okay, and we're just going to gently whisk that all in. Now if it looks like it's curdling as you're doing this, nothing to worry about, and what you can do is just add a tablespoon or so of the flour, and that will sort of sort itself out. So we're just going to go through, gradually getting all that egg mixed in. Might have to do a bit of scrape down every now and again. And once all that's in and mixed in well, we'll start blending in the flour. So I've reweighed that, and actually ended up being too heavy for my scale, so I've had to split it all up. And I've worked it out, I now need 447 grams in each of my 6 bowls. So I've got a bowl here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to add that amount of dough. So like I say, 447. Oops. Because we obviously want 6 equal cakes. As I say, 447, 448, that'll do. So I then take that dough mix and I take one of my colours. Now this is where we need to be careful, so I can tip all that in there, but what we don't want to do is knock all that air out that we got in there. So we want to be quite gentle the way we just fold all that colour through, but obviously we want to make sure that the batter is all, you know, all fully mixed with the colour, so we don't get any streaks in it. Now if I was doing 6 bowls and I was doing, you know, 6 tins, then I could get all these mixed up, ready to go, and if I had an oven big enough to put it all in anyway, which obviously I haven't. So I'm going to mix up this, and then I'm going to do 2 more bowls, because like I say I've got 3 tins. I'm then going to cover that over, okay, so that obviously it don't sort of dry out too much. But I've got that one done, so I'm going to take one of my prepared tins, and we're just going to put that batter into there, and then using a palette knife I'm just going to flatten it off, make sure it's nicely spread out, nice and even on top, and then it will be ready to go in the oven. Now the oven's already on, the oven's on at 170 fan, okay, and these will probably cook for about 20 minutes in, for each one rather, not for in. Okay, so I'm just going to get the last bit of that out of there, get that nicely smoothed over, like I say, and then we end up with a nice lot of washing up to do. So the first 3 cakes are out. They're just cooling. We want to get them nice and cool. They're obviously not very thick because, well, otherwise the cakes can be enormous, isn't it? But while the last lot are in there, they've got about another 5-10 minutes. I'm going to make the buttercream. Now it's going to be a nice plain white buttercream with vanilla. So in here I've got 400 grams of softened unsalted butter, and I'm just going to cream that up until it's nice and long and fluffy. And then I've got 900 grams of icing sugar, which we will then mix in with it, and also I'll be adding about half a teaspoon of vanilla extract and about 5 to 6 tablespoons of whole milk again. And then that will give us the buttercream that we will then use to sandwich the layers together, and we're going to cover the whole thing in that. Okay, so the colours will be hidden away inside. So I'm going to get that creaming while we're waiting to cook the rest of them cakes, and then we're going to do a bit of trimming on the cakes, because obviously we want a flat top, but the outsides, so the top's gone a bit discoloured, it's gone, you know, discoloured around the side where it touched the tin. We want to get rid of that, so we're going to trim these down. We're going to get a nice flat top. So I've got a cake leveler, okay, we're going to use that, and we're just going to trim them to a slightly smaller even size, and then we'll be ready to start putting it together. So I'm just going to make me buttercream. So the buttercream's made. I've covered it over some cling film so it sort of doesn't dry out too much, and the first 3 that I took out the oven that are cooled, I've trimmed the tops off so they're nice and flat, and I've also put them on some grease with paper, mainly just to make it a little bit easier to move them about. Now you can see the colours. That was telling me the third. The final one is a little bit longer. The one in the deeper tin was taking slightly longer, but I've already taken it out. But you can see the colours. The purple's not perhaps as purple as I was hoping, but the green's nice and intense. That sort of pinky colour's done. The red one's the one I've just taken out. That looks like a green. That's meant to be blue. But it's a bit difficult to tell because obviously the top doesn't resemble sort of what's inside. So I've trimmed that. Those trimmings, we can use that in like a trifle or something like that. But what we're going to do is trim the edges off. So I've got a bowl which is just a little bit smaller than the actual thing. And all I'm going to do with a sharp knife is I'm just going to go around and trim it so that we get them all the same size, but equally we get rid of that sort of discoloured crusty bit around the outside. And then we will be ready to start sticking them together. We need a bigger bowl. We need a bigger bowl. So we're going to start assembling the cake. So I've got a cake board here. Now ideally you want this on a turntable. I can't find my turntable, but it was a bit wonky anyway. And then with a palette knife, what I'm going to do to start with is just take some buttercream and just put some in the centre there. And then I'm going to carefully lift up my purple one and put that into the centre of that cake board. Now, because this is quite crumbly if you like, what we don't want is for our buttercream to end up all getting smothered in crumbs in there, because obviously we want to keep it white. So what we do is we start by just applying a thin layer of buttercream on top. And this will like help pick up any of them crumbs and ensure that then when we put a decent layer on top, we're not going to end up contaminating, if you like, the buttercream. Now, don't worry about going over the edges because we're going to be covering the whole thing. You don't just notice also I'm not very central, but never mind, I'm not going to try and move that now. So I've done that layer onto there. Now what we're going to do is we're going to put the blue layer on top, thin skin of buttercream, then a thicker layer, and we're going to build up the layers so that we've got purple, blue, green, yellow, orange colour and red. Alright, and then we'll look at covering the whole of that cake in then just a thin film just to seal it, and then I'm going to shove it in the fridge for an hour to chill it before we put the final coat of buttercream on it. So that's been in there an hour, okay, and hopefully that's set a bit now. I'm a bit low on buttercream, not quite sure how I'm going to cover all of this cake, but what we can now do, it's a bit easier to spread a smooth layer because the buttercream underneath has set. So what I'm now going to attempt to do is cover the whole surface. I've got a cake smoother, although to be honest, like I said, I've got a funny feeling I'm not going to have enough here, so we'll see how we get on. So it's quite warm in here, and I think the buttercream is starting to get a bit soft again. It's starting to lift off sides. So I've given it as good a coat as I can do. I've got barely any left. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to chill this for about another 20 minutes, and then we're going to come finish it off and we'll decorate it. So unfortunately, didn't quite have enough buttercream to fully cover it. Now, Gemma suggests you take some crumbs, a mixture of all the different colours, and you crumble that as like a little decoration, but I'm going to go instead, actually I need to let this warm up a little bit, I'm I'm just going to use some like little hundreds of thousand type things, and I'm just going to decorate it in that. And that is our rainbow cake, as requested by the wife. Might have to slice it later, see what it tastes like. It will be a bigger bit of cake, won't it? And there you go, I've sliced it. Things stuck to the table. So I don't know how well you can see if I'll pick that up. It's going to fall over in a minute. But there you go. There you can see the layers. And then here we have, I sliced it, cut it a bit funny. So let's try a bit of this cake, see what it's like. Ooh. Nice and moist. The top two layers are a little bit the same colour because, like I said, I didn't actually have the other colour I needed. But that, lush. Oh. Thanks CupCake Jemma, yet another successful baking session. Does look a bit of a mess, I know, not like yours. But there you go, rainbow cake. That should keep your wife happy for 5 minutes. 4 then.